They know what you're going to say. Before you say it, they know which button to push, which silence will make you uncomfortable, which compliment will earn your trust. It's not magic. It's not manipulation. It's simply that you've been predictable. In a world where everyone's broadcasting, reacting, oversharing, your mind has become easy to read and easier to control. You think you're sharp because you move fast, but fast isn't focused. Loud isn't respected. And constant input doesn't mean clarity. It means leakage. Because while you're trying to sound smart, they're using your reactions to outmaneuver you. And if you don't train this, someone else will use it against you. There's a different kind of intelligence. The kind that doesn't chase attention because it already owns the room. The kind that doesn't rush to prove because it's too busy watching. It doesn't need to dominate. It just sees more, speaks less, moves with precision. This isn't about becoming smarter on paper. It's about becoming unreadable in person. If you've ever felt like you're always one step behind, this is why. And if you stay with me, you'll learn the one shift that rewires everything, not by adding more, but by subtracting noise. This is the shift they'll never see coming, but you will. If you stay. Why smart men still lose? They lied to you. They made you think intelligence is what you say in a test. A number, a score, a resume line that makes you feel temporarily valuable, until someone else walks in with a higher number, a sharper suit, or a louder voice. They trained you to chase books, memorize facts, quote experts, fill your head with borrowed thoughts. They gave you information, but they never taught you how to see, and that's the myth, that smart people are the ones who know the most. But real intelligence, the kind that makes you dangerous, has nothing to do with how much you know. It has everything to do with how well you observe, how clearly you see. It's not about accumulating, it's about distilling. It's not how fast you think, but how deeply you can remain still. Because here's what no one tells you: the smartest men in the room often say the least. They don't interrupt. They don't overshare. They don't feel the need to prove anything. Why? Because they're not thinking about what to say next. They're watching, measuring, reading what no one else is paying attention to. Tone shifts, micro-expressions, inconsistencies, silence. While everyone else is thinking about sounding smart, they're collecting leverage. That's why information doesn't make you powerful. Perception does. Stillness sharpens that perception, and breath, yes, breath, is what steadies it under pressure. In the modern world, everyone's sprinting to look clever. But the ones who quietly outmaneuver everyone, they don't run. They pause. They pick up on patterns in people's behavior. They track energy shifts in a room like a military scout, maps terrain. They're not reactive. They're aware, and awareness. Real-time, calibrated, unshaken awareness is the most dangerous form of intelligence there is. You don't become deadly by thinking faster. You become deadly by seeing clearer. So no, intelligence isn't a gift. It's not something you're born with, or that some school hands you with a diploma. It's a discipline. One you build every day by reclaiming your attention, slowing your mind, cutting out noise, and practicing the art of precision. When you stop trying to impress people, you start to understand them. When you stop racing to reply, you begin to absorb. When you master stillness, you start to move through life like a weapon. Silent, controlled, calculated. And once you touch that level of clarity, you never go back, because now you know, intelligence isn't about being right. It's about being ready. The 4 inner shifts that rewire you. You don't become powerful by learning more. You become powerful by changing what you do with what you already know. Intelligence, as the world defines it, is often just performance. Grades, titles, fast talk, clever answers. But intelligence that threatens the status quo, that intimidates without a word, that only comes from inner shifts. Deep, almost invisible rewiring that sharpens the way you think, see, and respond to the world. These are not hacks. These are not surface habits. These are mental shifts. Each one forged in pressure, silence, and pain. Each one designed to make you less reactive, more aware, harder to read, and impossible to manipulate. Master these, and you won't just appear smarter. You'll become quietly dangerous in every room you walk into. Let's begin. Shift 1. From reaction to observation. Most men don't realize how much intelligence they leak through overreaction. They think being quick is being smart. That responding fast means they're ahead. That filling the silence makes them powerful. But the truth is, the faster you react, the more you reveal. And in a world where attention is currency, revealing too much too soon makes you an easy target. Leon Mercer learned this the hard way. He was sharp, no doubt. One of the most promising strategic advisors in New York's tech scene, fast-talking, sharp-suited, quick with a pitch, quicker with a comeback. He made a career out of being the smartest voice in the room. Until the day he walked into a boardroom and met someone who said nothing. It was a high-stakes investor meeting. Leon had rehearsed every word, every slide, every counterpoint. He delivered the pitch perfectly. Then a man across the table, grey suit, calm eyes, completely still, leaned forward and asked one question. One. It wasn't hostile. It wasn't loud. But it cut straight through Leon's entire model. Not because the man was aggressive, but because he saw something Leon didn't. The room shifted. Everyone listened. And Leon realized he'd been outplayed. Not by someone faster, but by someone slower. Someone quieter. Someone who had seen more. That moment rewired him. He stopped trying to dominate rooms. He started studying them. He stopped being the man who filled silence. He became the man who read it. That was the shift. From reaction to observation, he learned that you don't win by being the first to speak. You win by watching what no one else is paying attention to. Micro-tensions. Insecure overcompensation. Who's pretending to agree? Who flinches when risk is mentioned? These aren't things you catch when you're busy trying to sound smart. You only see them when you slow down. When you stop responding. When you observe. Observation is not passivity. It's preparation. The man who reacts immediately is ruled by impulse. The man who waits has options. Observation turns time into a weapon. It stretches the moment between stimulus and response, where power lives. The Stoics understood this. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you wish to be wise, learn to observe more than you speak." Leon began to notice things he never saw before. How a client's breathing would change before they lied. How someone's hands would twitch before they spoke. How tone revealed more than language. It wasn't psychic ability. It was attention, trained through silence. He began walking into rooms not to be heard, but to see. To gather data no spreadsheet could offer, and when he finally spoke, his words carried more weight, because they came from stillness, not reaction. You don't need more IQ to be dangerous. You need less impulse. You need the discipline to stop filling space, to notice before acting, to wait before striking. Because The man who speaks first may be heard, but the man who sees first is remembered. Shift 2, from thought follower to thought master. Most people never question the voice in their head. They assume it's them, that if a thought arises, it must be true, that if it sounds like fear, they should listen, that if it whispers hesitation, they should obey. But here's the truth, no one teaches you. Not every thought that enters your mind belongs to you. Some were planted years ago. Some are echoes from someone else's insecurity. Some are habitual loops forged through repetition, not truth. And the most dangerous man is not the one who fights others, but the one who never realizes he's being manipulated from within. Emma Voss was a surgeon, composed, methodical, respected, but her mind wasn't always quiet. In fact, it used to betray her in the worst possible moments. She'd stand over a patient in the ER and suddenly hear, "What if you screw this up? What if they die? What if you're not good enough?" The thoughts didn't come from reality. They came from somewhere deeper. Years of pressure, family expectations, internalized perfectionism. She didn't believe them, but they still pulled her attention. And that attention, in high-stakes environments, is everything. Her breakthrough didn't come through therapy or training. It came through stillness. One day, after an exhausting shift, she sat in her car and did nothing. No music, no calls, just silence. She watched her thoughts rise like waves. Some were cruel, some were anxious, some were pointless. And for the first time, she realized she didn't have to follow any of them, that she could simply observe, let them float past like traffic on a distant road. That's when she understood, thoughts aren't commands. They're options. This was her shift. From being a thought follower to a thought master, she stopped chasing every idea her brain offered. She stopped trying to fix every emotion that bubbled up. Instead, she built a habit of space between thought and action, between emotion and reaction. And in that space, clarity returned, calm returned, precision returned. This is what most men don't realize. Your brain isn't always on your side. It's not built for truth. It's built for survival, for speed, for pattern recognition, which means it often mistakes discomfort for danger, risk for threat, change for failure. If you listen blindly, you'll build your life around fear and call it logic. The Stoics knew this long before neuroscience did. Epictetus taught, "You become what you give your attention to." That's not what you believe, not what you claim. What you focus on, that becomes your operating system. The problem is, if you don't train that focus, someone else will. Social media, advertising, your parents' old narratives, the girl who told you that you weren't enough. All those voices get stored in your head and play on loop, not because they're true, but because you never interrupted them. Emma started doing something radical. Every time a thought came up, especially a self-doubting one, she didn't just hear it. She interrogated it. Is this real? Is this useful? Is this mine? If the answer was no, she let it go. Not forcefully, not with resistance, just with awareness, like watching smoke fade from the air. Over time, her mind quieted, not because it stopped generating thoughts, but because she stopped obeying them. That gave her room to lead, in surgery, in conversations, in moments of chaos. While others panicked, she was centered. While others got hijacked by self-doubt, she saw it coming and let it pass. And the more she practiced this inner detachment, the stronger her decisions became. Here's the hard truth. Most men are easy to control. not because they lack strength, but because they follow every thought they have. The moment you say, "I feel anxious, so I must be in danger," you lose. The moment you say, "I'm not ready, so I shouldn't start," you stall your life. But the man who pauses, who looks at that thought and says, "That's just noise," that man becomes untouchable. Mental toughness isn't about fighting thoughts. It's about seeing them clearly. You don't need to suppress. You don't need to affirm your way out. You just need to watch without attachment. That is where mastery begins. So the next time a thought rises that makes you feel small, scattered, or stuck, don't wrestle with it. Just ask, "Is this me?" And if it's not, let it float, like wind passing through trees, because a man who doesn't follow every thought becomes the kind of man others can't predict. And that, in any room, in any war, in any life, is dangerous. Shift 3, from noise consumer to stillness cultivator. There's a reason you feel overwhelmed, even when you've done nothing wrong. A reason your head feels foggy by noon, even if you slept. A reason you scroll for hours, but feel less informed, not more. It's not your discipline. It's not your intelligence. It's your input. Most men today are drowning in noise. Podcasts during workouts, emails during breakfast, news before your eyes are fully open, background, YouTube while you work, advice reels while you think, content, content, content. They've convinced you that this is the path to being sharp, that more input equals more intelligence, that if you're not constantly learning, you're falling behind. But it's a lie, a dangerous one, because your brain was never meant to be fed that much. Luca Valente was a fighter, former lightweight MMA prospect, undefeated at 19, all potential, all fire. But after his third win, something shifted. He started obsessing over edge. He watched everything: fight footage, breakdowns, psychology clips, tactical breakdowns, nutrition hacks, sleep optimization hacks, breathing techniques, philosophies, simulations. He consumed so much that his mind stopped having silence. He entered the octagon with a head full of scripts, theories, and predictions, but no feel, no presence, no instinct. And when his opponent moved off rhythm, Luca froze. He lost. Not because he wasn't ready, but because he was too full of noise, of data, of second guessing. That loss broke him, but it also woke him up. He realized he didn't need more, he needed less. He started cutting, not carbs, content, not calories, input. He turned off podcasts during workouts. He stopped watching breakdowns before training. He let his senses recalibrate. At first it felt like silence, but after a week it felt like freedom. That was his shift, from noise consumer to stillness cultivator. You see, most men mistake stimulation for sharpness. But the sharpest blade isn't used constantly. It's honed, it's cleaned, it's kept in stillness until it's needed. The mind works the same. Every piece of input you consume requires energy to process. Every headline, every comment, every half-baked opinion is a tax on your clarity. It doesn't matter how educational it sounds. If it overloads your nervous system, it's weakening your intuition. Stillness is not the absence of action. It's the condition for meaningful action. The Stoics understood this long before dopamine detox became a trend. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The mind is dyed with the color of its thoughts." Oh, if your mind is filled with scattered, urgent, anxious noise, Your decisions will be as well. You won't lead. You won't innovate. You won't respond wisely. You'll react. And you'll think. You're thinking. Luca rebuilt his training differently. In silence, he listened to his breath. He trained his focus on the rhythm of his own body. He let boredom rewire his attention span. He studied philosophy with no playlist in the background. He would run 5 miles with nothing in his ears but wind. He wasn't withdrawing. He was sharpening. He was doing the most dangerous thing a man can do in a distracted world. He was regaining control of his inner signal. Stillness isn't weakness. It's compression, power in containment, and it's rare. That's why the man who radiates calmness in a high-pressure room always stands out. Not because he says more, but because he's not leaking mental energy. He's not scattered. He's not over-informed and undergrounded. He has room inside himself to think. If you want to be smarter, don't seek more input. Create more space. Schedule boredom. Drive with no audio. Train in silence once a week. Observe what your brain does when you're not feeding it. At first, it will scream. Then it will settle. And what emerges after that is yours. There is a kind of clarity that only reveals itself when the mind is no longer full. When your system is quiet enough to hear your own instincts again, that's when you stop copying smart men and start becoming one. Stillness isn't a productivity trick. It's a survival tactic. And in a world addicted to noise, a man who can sit in silence becomes the most dangerous kind of thinker, not because he knows everything, but because he knows what not to let in. Shift 4. From external intelligence to inner perception. The most intelligent man you know probably isn't the one with the highest degree or the loudest voice. It's the one who senses the shift in a room before anyone speaks. The one who doesn't interrupt, not because he's timid, but because he's listening with more than his ears. The one who sees what no one else sees because he isn't looking outward for approval. He's looking inward for truth. We've been trained to equate intelligence with external markers. Grades, credentials, certifications, endorsements, algorithms. But all that does is make you appear smart. It doesn't make you dangerous. Because the real advantage, the one no system can track or measure, is perception. And perception doesn't come from accumulation. It comes from silence. Ayako never saw herself as brilliant. She was quiet, almost invisible. A Japanese ceramic artist in her 50s, she lived on the edge of Kyoto, far from the noise of modern achievement. Her home was a studio. Her tools were brushes and flame, and her wisdom came not from books, but from presence. She had no awards on the wall, but men from 5 countries flew across oceans to learn from her. Not because she had a system, but because she had clarity. You could feel it the moment she walked in the room. Calm, centered, grounded. Nothing rushed. Nothing forced. And yet, when she was asked how she learned to see what others miss, her answer was always the same. I stopped looking with my eyes. End free. At 29, she lost her daughter in a car crash. Her mind broke in places that logic couldn't reach. No quote could touch it. No explanation made it better. No advice could fix the quiet collapse happening inside her. So she did the only thing she had left. She sat, for weeks, in stillness, in breath, not to escape the pain, but to meet it, to observe it without flinching, to feel its shape, its rhythm, its origin. She didn't seek distractions. She watched the way grief curled in her gut, how it altered her breath, how her hands trembled only when she tried to suppress the tears. And slowly, through that inward seeing, she began to heal. Not because she understood more, but because she saw more. And what she saw wasn't just emotion, it was pattern, and pattern is power. That was her shift. From external intelligence to inner perception. She no longer searched for answers in others. She stopped asking experts to tell her what she already knew. She learned to trust what her breath was saying, what her nervous system was signaling, what the pause before a decision actually meant. In her craft, she stopped correcting every mistake and started listening to the clay. She noticed how even fire had rhythm. And soon, she wasn't just making art, she was making insight. The Stoics would have called this attending to the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up, if thou wilt ever dig." Lossa. But no one teaches you how to dig anymore. You're taught to Google, to compare, to outsource your wisdom to opinions and articles and comments from people you don't even know. We've built a world of external intelligence, but the men who shift the world aren't looking out there. They're tuned in. To breath, to instinct, to subtle shifts of energy that no algorithm can explain. Ayako said, "The most dangerous mistake a man can make is to ignore the quiet knowing inside him. It never yells," she said, "but it is always correct." And the reason most men miss it isn't because they're dumb. It's because they're too loud to hear it. Perception isn't taught. It's uncovered. It's cultivated. And it starts in stillness. The next time you're unsure, don't ask someone smarter than you. Ask the part of you that doesn't need language. Get quiet. Breathe deeper. Tune into what shifts in your body when truth is near. Because when you learn to see with more than your eyes, you become someone others can't read, can't manipulate, can't predict. And in that, you become not just intelligent, but untouchable. Why they fear you, without knowing why. But stillness doesn't just make you smarter, it makes you dangerous. Because the quieter you become, the more power you carry without ever having to raise your voice. They won't see you coming. Not because you're hiding, but because you've stopped broadcasting. You no longer interrupt to sound important. You don't overshare to feel valuable. You've chosen a different path now. One that moves beneath the surface. One that doesn't need to be loud to be lethal. This is a kind of danger that doesn't wear a label. It doesn't demand respect. It commands it. Not through dominance, but through presence. People feel it. The way they glance at you twice when you haven't said a word. The way conversations shift when you enter the room. They don't know what it is, but they know they can't fake it. Most men want to be respected through force, but the ones who carry weight are the ones who don't need to prove they're strong. They sit in silence, and the room conforms. They don't chase influence. They bend gravity. That's the result of all your inner work. When you stop reacting, when you stop letting your thoughts drive the wheel, when your mind isn't bloated with input, when your breath no longer spikes at every challenge, you become still, but not passive, quiet, but not invisible. You become undeniable. The Stoics never shouted their wisdom. They didn't beg the world to listen. They wrote in journals. They observed patterns. And when they acted, it was with precision. Never panic. Your danger isn't in how fast you speak. It's in how little you reveal. It's in how much you see. While others are busy performing intelligence, you're watching, waiting, letting them expose themselves. Stillness gives you options. Control gives you timing. And together, they create something most people can't describe, but instinctively respect. You don't have to threaten anyone. Your presence already did. How silent men train power. The most dangerous mind is not the one filled with knowledge, it's the one that knows what to do with silence. That kind of presence, the kind that commands attention without trying, doesn't come from luck, books, or genetics. It's trained, and it's trained in places most men avoid. Solitude, stillness, repetition. You don't build that kind of mind by accident. You build it like a weapon, quietly, daily, precisely. If you want to become the man who sees more, speaks less, and moves with unshakable clarity, you don't need more ambition. You need structure. Below are not tricks. They are disciplines, rituals of mental refinement, the forge of internal power. First, cut the noise. For 1 hour each day, remove all input. No music, no screens, no conversation. Just you, your breath, and the raw texture of your thoughts. At first, it will be uncomfortable. Your mind will beg for stimulation. Let it. Sit anyway. You're not punishing yourself. You're sharpening the edges dulled by overexposure. You're learning to hear your inner voice without distortion. Second, breathe with purpose. Every morning before the world gets loud, train your nervous system like a soldier preps his rifle. 5 minutes. Inhale through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold for 4. Exhale for 6. Do not rush. Do not multitask. Just breathe. This is not meditation. This is preparation. A calm nervous system is your shield in conflict, your anchor in chaos, your edge in every room. Third, observe before acting. Before every decision, delay by 3 seconds. Not because you're unsure, but because most men act too fast and regret too late. These 3 seconds are where wisdom lives. It's where you ask, is this strength or ego? Is this clarity or reaction? That pause rewires you. It teaches you to respond, not perform. And over time, those around you will feel it. Not in what you say, but in how little you waste your energy. Fourth, train invisibly. Practice presence in ordinary moments. While waiting in line, while walking to your car, while sitting in meetings, feel your feet on the ground. Slow your breath. Say nothing unless it adds value. This invisible training is how quiet men become powerful. Not by talking more, but by leaking less. Inner power is not gifted. It's earned in silence. And when the pressure rises, it will be obvious who trained and who didn't. This is what makes you untouchable. If you've come this far, it means something in you is ready. Not just to think differently, but to become different. The truth is, you were never lacking intelligence. You were just surrounded by too much noise, too many opinions, too many reactions mistaken for wisdom. Somewhere along the way, the world convinced you that thinking faster was thinking smarter, that having more input meant having more value, and that expressing everything meant you were in control. But now, you know better. Because what makes a man truly formidable isn't how much he knows. It's how deeply he sees, how little he needs to speak, and how fully he owns his internal rhythm. You've just walked through 4 shifts. 4 moments where a man either wakes up or stays asleep. You've seen what happens when you stop reacting and start observing. You've discovered that not every thought deserves your loyalty. You've felt the weight of stillness when the rest of the world is racing. And more importantly, you've begun to tune in, not to external validation, but to the quiet pulse of clarity that lives inside your own body. That isn't self-help. That's strategy. That's leadership. That's dangerous, because most people aren't trained to handle that kind of presence. And now, things will start to feel different. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. You'll speak less and mean more. You'll act slower and hit harder. You'll see through games without having to play them. And you won't be drawn into chaos because your mind doesn't flinch anymore. It chooses. While others overcompensate with noise, you'll understate with certainty. While they scramble to be seen, you'll remain steady and be felt. This isn't a performance. This is presence. And in the right hands, it's power. So no, this isn't the end. It's a return, not to who you were, but to who you were always supposed to be before the world made you noisy. Let them rush. You wait. Let them explain. You observe. Let them show off. You sharpen, because the most dangerous man is the one who doesn't announce his intelligence, but lives it, breathes it, and moves through the world like it's already his. If this message stirred something in you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a man who's been overlooked, underestimated, or quietly burning inside. Leave a comment, not for attention, but as a signal to those walking the same path. And if you want more content that sharpens your edge and honors your silence, subscribe. Not for numbers, but because this isn't a trend, it's a return to power. And by joining, you're not just leveling up your life, you're helping others do the same.